Okay, we'll go ahead and get started. Recapping off of last week's game, it was a hard-fought game, lots of ebbs and flows within the game, and our players played really hard. We knew that Utah State's very talented. Last year, this was the team that scored 58 points on us, and we knew they were very capable of scoring. We were really pleased with the start. I thought we came out and started really fast in all three phases of the game, and then there was a slowdown in the second half. It was kind of a perfect storm. We didn't convert on a couple third down plays, and defensively we really struggled during a period of time. I think it also is an indication of a young football team, learning how to play 4 quarters as opposed to 3. We did have the game sandwiched first and second and the fourth quarter. I thought our players really responded well. Without question, Josh Allen is continuing to emerge as really a dominant offensive threat, both with his legs and with his arms. I think we've got a very capable receiving core, a lot of challenging catches, and some big-time plays, not only from our wide receivers, but also the tight end position. And Brian Hill continues to be a great threat. Defensively, we're really pleased with 2 takeaways. We're really striving, working on ball hawking, stripping, and going after the football. And so we're really pleased with that. Logan Wilson came up with a fumble recovery and an interception. The interception was a great play. That we were solid in the kicking game. And so when you put all that together, we beat a good football team. They're a team on the mountainside, and it was a really good victory. So we're pleased with that. Next challenge up, we played UNLV last year, and it was a very close ball game. A lot of their same players are back. They inserted Palindek last week against San Jose, or I guess it's the week before they had a bye week, and he really gave them a spark. They had a shot to win the game. He's got a live arm, runs the ball well. He's got very good mobility, and they really have got 2 tailbacks that are electric. Both Thomas and Wilson are both guys that can go all the way for a touchdown anytime they touch the football. So we're going to need to make sure we've got great gap control there. I think I got a big-time receiver with Boyd, and we've had a difficult time with him last year. Their offensive line is well coached. They're always on point, very few mistakes, and I happen to know a lot of their coaches. Their offensive line coach had played for us when I was coaching at Nebraska. The offensive coordinator, he and I were teammates, and their defensive line coach was a teammate, and we were GA, so a lot of crossovers there. Defensively, they operate out of mainly a 4-down look. They will jump into a 3-down look, which always causes challenges going back and forth from 4 to 3. Number 55, we believe, is our best defensive player. Lotu Lele, I believe is how you pronounce his name. And that's no disrespect to him. I think he's really an excellent player. They have an excellent punter, and their field goal kicker is 8 for 9. So we play a solid opponent who has had a bye week. And I know Coach Sanchez is a very capable coach as far as directing their staff, making sure they utilize that bye well. And it'll be a big challenge to go on the road and see if we can have a chance to come up with another win. Each one of these wins are very meaningful, and so we're excited about playing the game. I know our football team's excited as well. We will have DJ May back. He was ejected in the first half. We got clearance from the Mountain West that he served a suspension, and Shiloh Wenzel will be back also. So at this time, I'll open up any questions anybody might have.
Craig, I know after DJ left, and Jalen went out early with an injury, and Chavez had to come in and fill in, and was told he didn't even really rep there during the week because he's more of a safety. After looking at film, did he do a pretty good job? And could that, is that just another example of next man up and learning on the fly, so to speak? Well,
he learned on the fly, but there's some similarities that we do at those positions, and so we were pleased with his performance, and I think it's an indication we're starting to develop more depth within our football team. We're encouraged. We believe we'll have Jalen back this week, so that'll fortify that position, and we certainly appreciate Chavez's efforts in the ball game.
Coach, last year, ending the season with that win against UNLV, just how much did that help, maybe going into the offseason on a high note and putting the year behind you?
I think it helped a little bit, but sometimes There was so much up and down last year. We really needed to change some things, and we did in the offseason, but it was great to come off with a win. This time last year, I believe we had won one game, and so it's a different football team. It was a very competitive game, and we anticipate a very competitive game this year.
Craig, you talked about going 1-0 every week.
Yep.
But now you're getting to obviously the meat of the schedule here. Do you have to emphasize that even more now as these last 3 games come on, that you can't look ahead, that it does no good to do that?
Well, we have a talented football team, but what we have to remember is they're a young football team. And so going through some ups and downs, that's why you have coach on your shirt, to manage expectations with these players, not only expectations, but manage their attention to detail and their focus. And it may be a simplistic answer, but I think we lost a little bit of focus in the third quarter, but that's not to detract from Utah State. They have playmakers, and they made plays during that time. An old wise coach said they remember November. We are in November, and each one of these games is a meaningful game. And so that's why we're 0-0, trying to do everything we can to get to 1-0. I told our coaches if that means somebody eats a worm in the locker room to get them fired up, that's what we're going to do.
Coach, you mentioned in your opening statements about ball hawking on defense, those turnovers. I believe I read some of your 17th in takeaways, with like 19 already this year. And it's evident the defense is better. How much can you just emphasize that point, seeing all the turnovers you're forcing to see the improvement in the defense?
If you look at our yards, and you look at some big plays that we've given up on the negative side, we can play better. But what's occurring is those guys going after that football, and that's had a huge impact. If you just look at factors that allow you to win games, turnover margin is one of them. And turnovers come about because guys playing with confidence. They play with confidence because they know what they're doing, and they have more speed and explosion. And then it develops into an attitude and a frenzy, and that's why we talk about takeaways as opposed to turnovers, because very rarely does an offense just give it to you. You need to have an attitude to take it away. And so that's had a huge impact. I think one of the reasons why we're where we're at is that margin.
Craig, you mentioned, when Josh gets out and is running and scrambling, it can make you cringe, but then it can make you grin when he makes plays like he's made the last few weeks and even throughout the season. Josh even said Saturday night doesn't really work on that, but how do you and Brent kind of balance it where he can make some plays, but there's also the possibility of some dangerous stuff happening. How do you kind of manage that with them? And do you really work on some of those things, I guess? Well,
that's constant communication that we have. We appreciate Josh's competitive nature. He's an ultra competitive guy, and he's also a confident player, and that comes about because he's gaining more of an understanding of our offense, and he has exceptional ability. I've coached long enough. There's very few guys out there that have his ability. So when you package that together, I think Coach Vigen's done a really good job managing that. Now, there was one game where he walked the edge too much, and it came back to bite us right in the rear end. And we like where he's at. At times, you get a little bit concerned how many times he's going to expose himself to potential hits. But once again, what do you say when he takes the ball off and runs 50 yards? Don't do that. I mean, we needed every one of those plays Saturday night. I mean, if anybody that was in this room was watching the game, that game tightened it up in a hurry. And some of the plays that he made flipped that whole thing around. And that's what the ability of a quarterback can do. And so we're managing in that. But you're not going to see us horse collar him, say, okay, you're going to be nothing but a drop back quarterback, and you're not ever going to escape the pocket, and if the throw's not there, you're going to throw it away. He's not going to do that. And I mean, he's coachable, but even if you gave him that mandate, I think he'd probably break it.
Craig, we spoke about Josh in the preseason, and you kind of, in a little bit of a way, you compared him to another great quarterback who you coached previous, who's now in the NFL with the Philadelphia Eagles. Can you compare the two of them at this stage of their development in their college careers? And are there things that you would say that Josh might even be able to do better than Carson did at this point in his development?
I would say their physical stature, it was comparable. Josh may be a little bit heavier than what Carson was during his third year. The arm strength, Josh may have a little bit stronger arm than what Carson had at this stage. Some playmaking ability was probably comparable. What Carson did, Carson really took ownership of his mental aspect of the game, and I think Josh will continue to do that. But what's interesting is I talked to my colleagues around the league. Josh was an unknown player. I think we kind of saw some things, and maybe he's exceeded some of his play with some of what guys in the room thought he could do. And to a certain degree, sometimes he's exceeded some of my expectations. But he's got exceptional ability. I mean, he's got exceptional ability, and I think before his career is done, he'll be one of the top quarterbacks in the country. And I don't want to say I've coached. I coached against Peyton Manning, and Peyton Manning's a different type of guy, but he's got really good ability, and the future looks really bright.
When he makes these throws, particularly these throws on the run with such accuracy and with such power behind his throws, you ever find yourself on the sideline shaking your head and saying, my goodness, this is just, it's exceptional.
Yes. Yes. I think the touchdown that he threw to Tanner in the end zone, he did the same thing against Nebraska before the end of the half. He did it, I don't know who. I mean, these games are all starting to roll together. Yeah. It's like a movie. It's like Groundhog Day. They keep coming up over and over again. So,
Coach, is it a perfect example of how important a quarterback is? I know it's kind of an obvious statement, but Brian rushes for 1,600 yards last year, and you win 2 games.
Right.
Similar numbers this year, and you're 7-2. I'm not taking away from Colby or Chase or whoever was at quarterback, but I mean, it just seems like it's an obvious statement. I know, but it proves the point.
And Josh is playing well. We've got a lot of other parts around him, and what Josh is doing, he's elevating everybody else's game. My experience as a head coach, that you can have a very good football team. If your quarterback manages the game, you can win, but you better be great on defense, and you better be exceptional in the kicking game. And you can manage and you can win. If you look at our youth of our football team, and if you look at some of the statistics where we're at, those numbers don't lie. We're winning football games. We're taking it away on defense, making plays when we need to make plays. Brian's contributing, those receivers are contributing, and Josh is stirring the whole thing. And if you look in the NFL, just go ahead and open up the deal where they're paying the most money to. And you got a good quarterback. I called defenses for a lot of years. Guy's an average player. You can just kind of put up the Rolodex. I'll call this, I'll call that, and they all kind of work. You're playing somebody who is a really good quarterback. I said this before, it's like there's a dam and there's 3 holes and you got 2 corks. I mean, it seems like, okay, you do this, and so you're going to play coverage. And what's he do? He takes off and runs with it. You do this, you're going to blitz him. I mean, the guy misses the tackle. You do this, and you're going to have everything off well, then your running game's there. And so he's really opened up our playbook.
Coach, back when you guys were recruiting Josh, what were some things that maybe you saw, and why do you think maybe he did kind of fly under the radar back then?
Well, he was physically a little bit underdeveloped. He was a tall, I wouldn't say skinny, but he certainly wasn't 225 pounds. And he gained some weight, but maybe it wasn't all great weight. He did have a strong arm. He was from a small town. The town he's from has 2 stoplights. There's also certain guys that are going to really be attracted to the University of Wyoming. That comes into what we first set out of. What's our profile? He drives a pickup and has a baseball cap. Comes from a farm. Loves to compete. There's all those stars that all these guys have. He didn't have any stars. But that's where you try to peer through and you look out and say, okay, where's this guy going to be? And so we were excited about it when we signed him. But I could see, some other people say, okay, he's from a small town. He was playing 1 year junior college at a junior college that was just kind of off the beaten path. there's 20 other guys out there. Yeah, I don't think so. I think we got a special player.
You said something before that I found interesting. You said that Josh is a player that elevates the play of everybody who's around him, makes everyone else better. I'm sure that if you go back through the Rolodex of the years that you've been coaching, not many players that I think that you can say, this guy is a good player, plenty of good players, but not a lot that I think you would say they make everybody else around them better.
No, that's accurate. That's just a fact. And what's encouraging is we got a whole lot more to play for this year, and it's also encouraging he's a sophomore and doesn't shave yet. There's something to be said for that. I'm telling you, his trajectory looks really good, guys. I'm an old seasoned football coach. It's just, okay. Any other questions?
Yeah, how do you feel about being 7-2 and 5-0 in the conference?
We are 0-0 right now, trying to get to 1-0.
Yeah.
You knew that was going to be the answer to come out. Yep. Okay. Any questions online? We got some people on the line, I guess. Any questions? Going once, going twice.
Yeah, sure, Coach. This is Todd Dewey from Las Vegas Review-Journal.
Yes, okay, Todd.
Yeah, how you doing? Thanks for having me. I'm going to do something on Brian Hill, and I was wondering, could you just talk about what makes him so special and what you saw when you recruited him at North Dakota State and, continued on at Wyoming?
Well, where he's at, he's relentless as a runner. I think he's got good vision. He's able to, find a crack, and he's patient. When I use the word relentless, that's typically he's running with a sense of purpose every time, as opposed to just trying to gain yards. He's developing into a very capable pass protector, and he's got good hands. But the biggest thing is he's got a combination of speed and power. And in today's college, you'll find some guys that are fast, and then they're not real big or powerful, and then you'll find some other guys who may be big, but they're not that fast. And I don't know if you put a 40 time in there on Brian, I think he'd run well, but he's an ultra competitive guy, and it doesn't matter who's out there. Last Saturday night, Utah State had an angle on him a couple times. He just outran them, and you can't put a 40 time on that. So he's got a heart. The biggest is the state of Wyoming. What we saw out of him in high school, we knew a lot about his program. We saw a tall guy that had a good frame, that showed signs of becoming a good runner. And we knew in our style of offense, we were going to need a guy that was going to be able to, get over 200 pounds, that had some good athleticism. Brian exceeded our expectation. The very first game he played in was against Montana as a true freshman, and he played at a really critical time of the game, and he delivered. Maybe some of the people in the room remember that, and right away you saw, some good things there from Brian.
Can I just ask you one more thing? Has he been overshadowed a bit by Darnell Pumphrey, you think, this year? You consider him right up there on the same level?
Well, we certainly have watched a lot of crossover tape, and you can't help but notice what Donnell has done. I mean, I believe he's going to break the NCAA rushing record. And what's unique about his skill set, he's got great speed, but with his stature, while you might think he's an undersized player, he certainly doesn't play that well. To say that Brian's been overshadowed, it's hard for me to say that. We live in our own bubble here in Laramie, Wyoming. We really appreciate what Brian's done for our program.
Thank you.
Okay. All right. Thanks a lot, everybody.
Coach?
Yeah, yes.
Coach?
Yes.
This is Ed Graney from Las Vegas. How are you?
Very good. Ed?
I just want to ask you one question, because you talked a little bit earlier about the kind of who you look for in a player, and obviously I think you'd agree you can build programs differently in terms of recruiting bases, towns, and everything, and Tony's trying to build it here. But do you think there's common ingredients, whether it be you, Tony, or whoever, who go into a program that needs to be rebuilt, that you all must have to kind of build a likeness in terms of success, that every program needs to have when you start to build?
I think in building a program, you really need to have a clear convictions and a clear vision. Every program has a different culture that's going to allow it to be successful. Quite frankly, how how we operate, and as a coaching staff, our model fits certain places and probably doesn't fit other places. Every program is going to look for ultra-competitive players, but the style and nature may vary. But the common theme is for that coaching staff to have, as I said, a clear vision on who they are, and then need to have a strong conviction not to sway from those convictions that you have, because in today's world of instant gratification and win now, sometimes it's fairly difficult. You can have a tendency to, some coaches will compromise their convictions and their vision, and that is a recipe for disaster. And so that's maybe my answer to your question.
That's interesting in that, like, if it doesn't go well right away, or these first 2 or 3 years, I think everyone always, the fear comes in, how long do you
Tell me about it around here. It doesn't go well for the first couple of years, yeah.
Do you see that from some in your fraternity, that there's so much pressure on coaches now to win, that it's just difficult to maybe remain with those convictions if it doesn't go well early?
And I think when you take the job as a head football coach and you're gonna embark on a 180-degree change in everything you're trying to establish, there needs to be, you got to have your ducks in line to make sure that, okay, here's the resources that are going to be applied, here's the timeline that this is going to take, and you better have things more than a handshake to where, as a coach, because you get tried, there's no one that's more of a critic than the coaches. Everybody wants to win, but you just cannot compromise, and that's what I probably appreciate about Tony. I don't know him very well, but you cannot compromise your vision and your convictions, and that's why you got the job. And the guys that start flip-flopping back and forth aren't going to last very long in this profession. And you're right, I've got a lot of friends that when it came to crunch time, they had to spit the bit out and they couldn't do it. And you've got to be able to stay the course.